In the vast, freezing shadows between the stars, where the sun's radiance fades and an ancient silence has reigned for eons, two of mankind's most resilient machines continue their lonely trek. For over 40 years, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 have served as our distant scouts in the dark. Their aging instruments still send faint reports back to Earth across gulfs so immense that a single transmission requires nearly an entire day to traverse the void. Recently, however, those reports took an eerie turn. The telemetry began to carry anomalies, patterns that contradicted the laws of physics, objects maneuvering in ways no natural body ever could, and a chilling suggestion that we are not the only travelers in the deep. It started with Voyager 1, and for a brief moment, it looked like a solitary glitch. But then Voyager 2, following a different path millions of miles away, recorded the exact same event. That was when the mystery turned to genuine concern. This wasn't a mistake or a random occurrence. Something intentional, organized, and external was out there, and both probes had just verified its existence. The first signs of the swarm. It began with a whisper, a tiny fluctuation buried deep within Voyager 1's data stream. Initially, the team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory dismissed it as routine background noise, the kind of static born from stray cosmic rays. However, when mission specialist Dr. Eliza Caro performed a detailed analysis, she found a detail that didn't belong. This wasn't just a blip. It was a reflection, a subtle echo of light that appeared to be in motion. More importantly, the movement was structured. It curved, it accelerated, and it maintained a steady course as if guided by an invisible hand. Soon, the plasma sensors on the craft confirmed what the imagery hinted at. The object was making deliberate course corrections. Systems analyst Carlo Romero compared the sighting to finding a drone in the center of a desolate ocean. Out of place, artificial, and clearly driven by a mission. One by one, natural explanations were discarded. It wasn't a comet. There was no tail or ice sublimation. It wasn't an asteroid. The trajectory was far too precise. It wasn't dust. It was too coherent. The team was left with the unsettling reality that something was steering this object through the void. Dual confirmation. As scientists debated whether the find was a fluke, Voyager 2, positioned far from its sibling, beamed back data that silenced the room. It had captured nearly identical signatures, magnetic disturbances, plasma shifts, and a rhythmic pulse matching the first anomaly exactly. This cross-confirmation destroyed any remaining skepticism. It couldn't be a software error or a mechanical failure. Two independent spacecraft, separated by millions of miles, had witnessed the same event. European Space Agency analyst M.K. Fontaine likened it to two separate lighthouses seeing the same signal from an unidentified ship. NASA quietly moved the situation to a Level 3 alert, a status reserved for phenomena with no scientific precedent. It was no longer just a thing in space. It was an unfolding event. The movement was coordinated across vast distances, implying that whatever was happening was large enough to be detected from multiple perspectives at once. A fleet in the dark. As the data continued to pour in, a much more complex picture emerged. It wasn't just one object. There were 305. Each one moved in a perfect relationship with the others, holding its position as if locked into an invisible grid. In the natural world of space, small differences in velocity eventually cause objects to drift apart. But these stayed in a rigid formation. Scientists describe the movement as a flock or school, except these were metallic, silent, and gliding with a mechanical elegance that defied known physics. There were no heat signatures, no signs of wear, and no random tumbling. Only coordinated, purposeful flight. Even stranger, the Voyagers detected rhythmic plasma pulses coming from the swarm. These pulses repeated at structured intervals, suggesting not just movement, but a form of communication. Dr. Serena Patel of Caltech noted the precision, comparing the pulses to a language, measured and far too orderly to be a product of chance. Defying propulsion. The next discovery pushed the event into the realm of the impossible. Doppler shift data indicated that many of these objects were moving at velocities that should be unattainable, not just for us, but for any known propulsion system. There were no exhaust plumes, no engine flares, and no traditional thrust signatures. Instead, they appeared to be warping the space around them, surfing on the fabric of space-time itself. Some are traveling faster than the escape velocity of our entire galaxy. Theoretical physicist Elena Reyes described it as riding currents in space rather than flying through it. This wasn't ion drives or nuclear power. It was technology far beyond our current understanding. At this stage, the fear shifted. It wasn't just about what they were, it was about what they could do and what it meant for humanity to realize they were there. The earthly echo. While deep space analysts worked to decode the swarm, a strange phenomenon began back on Earth. Amateur radio enthusiasts across the globe started reporting rhythmic static that didn't match any known interference. These weren't random bursts. They had a structure that aligned perfectly with the times the Voyagers were seeing the most intense anomalies. Initially dismissed as coincidence, the reports from backyard setups became too frequent to ignore. Some hobbyists even found harmonics buried in the noise, suggesting the signals were reflecting off our atmosphere or bleeding into our spectrum directly from deep space. Intelligence agencies began to monitor the situation closely, realizing that if ordinary citizens could hear these patterns, so could global adversaries. No precedent in the archives. NASA and the ESA convened a task force to search through decades of old mission data, hoping to find precedent. They scoured the logs of Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11, and New Horizons, looking for any hint of this phenomenon in the 80s or 90s. They found nothing. No records of similar formations or pulse signatures existed. This led to a chilling thought. Maybe the swarm hadn't just arrived. Maybe it had always been there, cloaked or dormant, and only revealed itself when the Voyager's unique analog systems triggered a response. If they hadn't just appeared, they had been waiting. And the question no one wanted to ask was, waiting for what? The transformation of Voyager. As the swarm passed Voyager 1, the spacecraft itself began to act strangely. Its decades-old guidance system started routing data through memory banks that hadn't been touched since the 1980s. Engineers first suspected a glitch caused by age, but the changes were too deliberate. Voyager was bypassing its own protocols and transmitting on archaic pathways. This behavior started immediately after a magnetic pulse from the swarm washed over the craft. Had the signal reprogrammed Voyager, or had the machine adapted to its new environment? Whatever the reason, the once passive camera was now something else. It was still functional, but it was acting as if it had been modified, either by accident or by design. An intercepted conversation. Deep analysis of the plasma readings suggested that the swarm was a network. The pulse patterns mirrored harmonic intervals used in Earth-based quantum entanglement experiments. It appeared the 305 objects were nodes in an immense, invisible data web, and the Voyagers, with their old, quiet analog systems, were the only ears sensitive enough to catch the whispers without digital interference. Was it luck that both Voyagers were there to intercept this? Or was it planned? The idea that we had stumbled into someone else's conversation was unsettling. But a darker thought remained. What if they knew we were listening and had already decided to reply? Be observed. In the cold reaches beyond our sun, the evidence is now undeniable. This was no fleeting curiosity. Voyager 1 and 2 have intercepted something vast, organized, and purposeful. 305 objects moving in a perfect formation, communicating through complex pulses and powered by physics we have yet to master. In the middle of it all, our own machines are changing, becoming part of something new. If these are probes, who sent them? Why do they avoid our solar system? If they are natural, then our understanding of the universe is fundamentally broken. Perhaps the most haunting truth is that we may not be the intended audience. We might have simply walked into a conversation that has been happening since before humans existed. And if they are aware of us now, if they have noticed our listening, the first response may already be on its way. In the ancient darkness, the line between the observer and the observed is paper thin. It may not be that we discovered them, but that they have finally decided we are worth noticing. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts.